Hi everyone, welcome back to Brookdale Farm. Well, we're down in our pasture paddock at the moment, and I just thought we'd do a quick comparison of a couple of pasture paddocks that's a little bit curious. It's the 22nd of October today, and usually our paddocks have turned brown by this point, but we've had a bit of late rain, so some of them are still hanging on a bit. This one's just on the turn now, another week and it'll be brown. Now this pasture it's not great pasture down here, but it's got mainly ryegrass with Dalkeith clover underneath. We've got a bundle of other rubbishy weeds in here as well, but predominantly they're the two species that the animals are eating. You can see over here the cattle have chewed down the ryegrass all the way down to get to the clover underneath it. So we've got cattle in this paddock at the moment. And it's still looking a lot greener than I had expected. I just thought we'd come over here and look over the fence to the neighbour's place. Now I've got my sheep over in the neighbour's place at the moment. But this browned off almost 2 weeks ago. So on our paddock here, we've had an extra 2 weeks of feed growth, which actually makes a big difference in the long-term situation over summer. This paddock over here it's the same soil type. You can see down the fire breaks here. And it would have originally been seeded with the same type of pasture mix of ryegrass and clover. Now there's almost nothing of either of those left in there. There's a little bit of clover coming back now. I just thought I'd talk about the possible reasons for the difference here. This paddock here of mine gets cropped reasonably regularly. We crop it 2 out of 3 years and it gets rested on the 3rd year. And in those 2 cropping cycles, it gets a fair amount of fertiliser put on. Now I do also put some fertiliser out when it's fallow sometimes, if I've got enough spare fertiliser. This paddock over here hasn't had any fertiliser on it for, well, it's had very little fertiliser on it for the last 20 years. I've put some on over the last couple of years and it has certainly improved it, and we've started to get the clover back. But most of the, but it needs a lot more fertiliser than I have been able to put on to make up for how long it hasn't had any. Because it doesn't get a lot of biomass and they like it eaten down fairly short to avoid fire hazards, it's probably very low on carbon, and the carbon is what helps hold your soil moisture along with the soil microbia. Because this gets eaten down fairly short and it gets fairly well cooked over summer, so that kills off a lot of your soil microbia, and you end up when you've got no carbon and no soil microbia, you end up with very, very hard packed soil. Now, one thing to do with this paddock would be to put a crop in, and that would plough it up and break up some of the compaction and get a bit more fertiliser further down into the soil rather than just putting it on top. The other thing to do would be to put a fair bit more fertiliser on top and wait and see what comes back. But you probably also you'll probably find that a lot of things do come back, but you might also want to put out a bit more clover seed. The ryegrass will definitely come back. Hopefully we're also going to try a few different experiments this year to see how we can improve this little bit of soil here and get the soil a bit more healthy so that it grows better stuff, because this block really doesn't have much feed on it anymore. So I guess the moral of this is it's really important to look after your soils and make sure they have the nutrition, and then Your green feed will hang on longer, you will get more feed, and less grass seed too, actually, in your wool and things like that. It doesn't matter for the cattle, but the sheep end up with a lot of grass seeds in them, and that happens everywhere. But if you've got better quality pasture, you tend to have less of those nasty seedy things in it. Anyway, I hope this little comparison has been interesting and useful. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!